Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and this is my Adventure Time Season 5 Top 10 list. Considering just how long it is, I was initially worried that Season 5 would be hard to rank. Though it was actually pretty easy, I only really had a problem deciding on a number 10, and even then it wasn't that hard. But with all that said, these are my top 10 Adventure Time Season 5 episodes. At number 10, we have Finn the Human. The episode, not the character, obviously. Annoying title aside, Finn the Human is a very interesting what-if sort of episode, where we see an alternate reality in which the Lich never existed. I really like how much weight is put on Finn's wish here. They do a good job selling the importance of Finn making this decision. There's definitely a novelty to seeing the farm world version of characters we're familiar with. I find Farm World Marceline to be especially interesting, how she basically dedicated the rest of her life to guarding and protecting Simon and the crown. It's an interesting contrast from our Marceline, who, up until a couple episodes ago, wanted nothing to do with Simon once he became the Ice King. The Destiny gang makes for really fun antagonists. Big D especially is just so over the top, such a great character. This episode also introduced us to Prismo, one of my absolute favorite minor characters who I wish got to do more throughout the course of the show. I just love the idea of this cosmic deity just being a casual, regular guy. Great use of juxtaposition. Unfortunately, I'm not that into this episode's follow-up, Jake the Dog. I just find it to be a little too tonally inconsistent for my liking. But I'm not gonna let my opinions on that episode affect my view on this one. It's still an awesome season premiere and a great introduction to the multiverse. At number 9, we have Time Sandwich. Time Sandwich is just fun, man. It's not a particularly deep or thought-provoking episode, it's just a really enjoyable 11 minutes. I absolutely love this whole opening sequence. The music, the lighting, the animation, it's all just really beautiful. It's also great just how elaborate the sandwich Jake makes is. This episode gives us some great character moments too. I love how the only thing Bmore, Peebles, and Marcy managed to do is make the bubble look cooler. Though a part of me wonders why they didn't give Ice King something to do here, as this does come from the stretch of episodes in which he's living with Finn and Jake. This big bubble that slows down whatever's inside it makes for a really cool set piece for the episode. This episode's climax is a combination of both hilarious and awesome. I love the idea that Jake can make himself cry from a conversation that he entirely made up. This whole sequence is really well animated too. A classic episode for sure. At number 8, we have Bmore. Bmore is a very interesting exploration of Bmore's origins. There's a strong air of mystery to the Mo Factory that makes it very fun to watch Finn, Jake, and Bmore explore. I don't know what it is exactly, but I find these security modes to be really funny. What are you two goofs doing? Goofing? It's a really fast-paced episode too, we never spend too much time on one particular scene. This whole tram chase sequence is really fun and probably my favorite part of the episode. I love the staging here too. And of course, learning about Bmore's origins is great as well. Bmore truly is one of a kind. Mo is a really sweet character as well, and I wish we got to see him at least one more time before he passed away in Season 7. It's also really cool seeing all these different Mo designs at the end of the episode. A very wholesome episode as a whole, definitely one of the better ones to be focused on Bmore. At number 7, we have Bad Timing. Finally, an LSP episode makes one of these lists, right? I find that most LSP-centric episodes don't really work for me, as I often find her character to be too obnoxious in order to be invested in her stories. But I think Bad Timing works because of how much it plays into this aspect of her character. I think Bad Timing really works as a tragic character deconstruction of LSP. She wants so badly to be close to others that she ends up pushing them away. It's sad too, because at first LSP and Johnny seem like a genuinely healthy couple. You can feel their chemistry. But the moment she becomes jealous, she regresses back into her old selfish ways. The whole episode taking place within this bubble was such a brilliant decision. There are so many interesting little characters who show up throughout the episode. And at first when you're watching it, you think it's just a weird little gimmicky thing. but when that ending hits, it hits really hard. If you want a good LSP character study with some interesting visuals, then Bad Timing is the episode for you. At number 6, we have A Glitch is a Glitch. I don't care what anyone says. A Glitch is a great episode. This is a hill I will die on. The episode just goes all in on its absurd premise, and I honestly love it for that. We've got a girl eating her own hair, Jake and PB's hands making out, and whatever the hell this is. Yeah, safe to say it's a strange episode. I really appreciate the way they managed to translate the show's art style into 3D. It's obviously different enough to stand out as a non-canon episode, but still feels like Adventure Time. It's not a water park prank situation. I especially love the absolutely insane way the glitch itself is designed. It's just so damn cool. There's some great jokes here too. I swear, the 1 second later joke gets me every time. Something about just how unnecessarily long it is makes it so funny to me. Jake's montage with his right arm is pretty amusing. And I love the way the Ice King is completely into being beat up by PB. I don't know, I can totally see why this episode might be too weird or off-putting for some people. It's definitely a bit of an acquired taste, but as someone who's always been into absurdist humor, I really enjoy this one. At number 5, we have Dungeon Train. I mentioned in my Season 5 retrospective that I'm not a fan of the Flame Princess breakup arc as a whole. However, Dungeon Train is the exception to this, as it's one of the few episodes that actually manages to take the breakup seriously. I really like the idea of Finn using the train to help work through his emotions. I think it says a lot about Finn, how he'll often use adventuring as a means to distract himself from his real problems. I also like what this episode says about Jake, that even if he fundamentally disagrees with what Finn's doing, he'll still stick by and support him. I like that Jake being miserable is what convinces Finn to eventually get off the train. I really love the idea of this infinite dungeon train. I mean, the concept alone is so good, they literally made an entire show based around it. The enemy designs are all really cool too. Hey, look at that! Jake's hanging out with an NFT! But for real, Dungeon Train is just great. It's a really fun concept that's well utilized to explore Finn's emotions. It's the one part of the breakup arc I don't hate. At number 4, we have The Vault. The Vault is such an interesting episode. It manages to cram so much lore into only 11 minutes. We learn about the reincarnation system. We see Finn's most recent previous life, Shoko. We see the Candy Kingdom early on in its development. We get some foreshadowing for Finn's robot arm. We learn that Shoko died right where the treehouse was built. And we learn that PB is a lot older than we previously thought. But I like that the episode isn't just an 11-minute lore dump. It manages to tell an actual story around the lore that it presents. Shoko and Bonnie have a really fun dynamic with each other. And because of that, you feel bad for Shoko when she's forced to betray Bubblegum later in the episode. I like that the episode never makes Shoko out to be a bad person. She was a lower-class citizen whose family neglected and abandoned her. Of course she's gonna steal things for the smallest amount of money, wouldn't you in that situation? I guess you could say she was dealt a bad hand. Ultimately, Shoko's story is a tragic one, and I like that the episode doesn't sugarcoat that. I mean, she's basically this show's equivalent to Frank Grimes. The Vault is a very tragic, but very fascinating episode. At number 3, we have Pujo. Pujo is just such a chill episode. It's a charming little story about Finn finding love in this pillow world. There are technically stakes, Finn does need to get back to his own world, but the main focus is more on Finn's new life in the pillow world. It's cool to see this hypothetical alternate timeline for Finn, and how he grows to appreciate his new life as opposed to longing for his old one. I love the design of the pillow world itself, it's all just so colorful and creative. It has a bit of a Kirby's Epic Yarn vibe to it. Jake and Bmore's mini subplot doesn't really add much to the story, but it's still really cute. I don't know why, but Jake's weird obsession with this mug is just really funny to me. But I think the most significant thing about this episode is the introduction of Golb. I like that not much is really revealed about him here. He's just this mysterious force that Finn has a quick brush with. But what we learn about him in future episodes actually recontextualizes Golb's appearance here. since it implies that Finn might have subconsciously created this world and that Gulp destroyed it. But that's just some interesting food for thought in what's generally a pretty low-key episode. At number 2, we have Mystery Dungeon. Mystery Dungeon is just such a fun episode. The idea of taking 5 completely random characters, most of whom have barely interacted before, and sticking them in a dungeon together is such a genius concept. The character interactions here are all top-notch. They bounce off each other so well. From Ice King being a pathetic loser, to Lemongrab's insanity, Nectar's childlike innocence, Tree Trunk's sassiness, and Shelby's straight man persona. They really chose the perfect group of characters, since they all have very contrasting personalities. As per usual, the dungeon here is very well designed. I really like the way this monster looks in particular, and the twist that Ice King is the one who brought everyone to the dungeon in the first place is a good one. It's well foreshadowed by him writing in his journal earlier in the episode. The Fiona and Cake book coming to life is also really funny. I love this moment at the end between Ice King and Nectar too. It's really wholesome, and I like the way it parallels their scene at the end of What Is Life, with Ice King using his imagination zone to meet Fiona. Also, I guess Nectar predicted the plot to the Fiona and Cake spin-off, didn't he? Mystery Dungeon is a great concept executed very well. I honestly just can't get enough of these dungeon episodes. And at number 1, we have Simon and Marcy. Yeah, like with I Remember You last season, this was just an easy shoo-in for number 1. Nothing else could have really come close to topping it. But what can I say? Simon and Marcy is just a perfect episode, and it's no wonder why it's so many people's favorite. Aside from that very brief scene at the end of I Remember You, it's our first real look at Ooh right after the Mushroom War, as well as our first look at Marceline and Simon's relationship before Simon was corrupted by the Crown. The visuals here are fantastic. They really nailed that post-apocalyptic vibe. The story itself is relatively simple, but much like with I Remember You, it works in the episode's favor, since it's less about actually getting the soup and more about Simon trying to protect Marceline without going insane. Simon is just such a charming and likable father figure that it's hard not to find his struggle here compelling. I appreciate that the tone stays relatively light here. It makes sense in universe that obviously Simon would want to keep Marceline happy during a dark time in her life. But the episode doesn't go too overboard on the comedy either. It knows when to be silly and when to be serious. And it all builds to this absolutely excellent moment where Simon chooses to sacrifice his own sanity in order to protect Marceline. It's just so well animated and heartbreaking and beautiful. It's just a perfect scene all around. I love the irony in him singing the Cheers theme because in the present day, almost nobody knows his name. Also, this episode helped me memorize the Cheers theme without having seen a single episode of Cheers. I also appreciate how bittersweet the ending is. It's happy in the sense that Simon was able to protect Marceline, but also sad in the sense that in doing so, he lost his mind, causing Marceline to distance herself from him for so many years. Simon and Marcy is just a perfect episode. It's the perfect balance of fun and emotional, and Adventure Time just wouldn't be the same without it. And those were my favorite Adventure Time Season 5 episodes, but before I go, I have 4 honorable mentions. The amount of honorable mentions I have isn't really related to the quality of Season 5, and more so the fact that it's just a really long season, so obviously there were more episodes to choose from. First up, we have Vault of Bones, another really fun dungeon episode. I wish we got more Finn and Flame Princess hangout episodes like this one. Next up, we have One Last Job, a really fun heist episode that also gives Tiffany some much needed time in the spotlight. The Pit is definitely one of the funnier episodes from the second half of Season 5. Tons of great Jake shenanigans in this one. And lastly, we have Billy's Bucket List, an awesome season finale with great animation and gives us some closure on Billy. It also ends on that fantastic cliffhanger. As I stated before, Season 5 is a long season, so there are probably some really good episodes that you guys think I missed. And if there are, then please let me know in the comments. Kirby, out.